Hey guys, this is Todd from the Table Ready Podcast, and we are actually doing something a little bit different today because we actually have a new set of missions for the Grotmas calendar. So if you've been paying attention at all, we have been working on this Grotmas calendar through the month of December, and we are just going to keep moving forward on this and see what we got. So what I'm going to do here is I have not actually looked at this yet. So I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to look at it together and see what we come up with. Now, I am going to be honest with you. I did open the pages so that, my computer wouldn't slow down or something like that, just in case. But I don't foresee any kind of a problem. I just wanted to make sure we're all moving in a good direction. So we're going to open this up here. And here we go. This is my White Dwarf page here. And we're going to open that up a little bit here just in case somebody does pop on. And hey, just if you want, throw a message out here. If this is something that you looked over and you've seen it and you think this is a cool idea or if this is just trash, throw it out, because this is honestly my first look. I was doing my normal household evening chores and my son came down and he said, "Hey, do you know there's missions for Space Marine 2? And I was like, I did not know that. So, let's check this out. See what we got. So we're going to jump over. So we got Space Marine Operations, just showing this here. Just making sure that you got this. You can see what I'm seeing. Right. So this is the Space Marine Operations. This is the sheet straight from, as you can see, Games Workshop. And I have a lot of really cool pictures. It looks like they're playing on the Zone Mortalis boards, which I don't own, but I do own a 3D printer. So, but I do have a couple other ways that I can play stuff like this. It says movement and distances use the square grid of the boarding actions games. All models must be placed wholly within one square if possible, the exact position of which does not matter. Okay, so this might be almost like a checker or chess kind of mission as opposed to just a normal movement. Or maybe even like a Space Hulk. That would be kind of cool. But they got a bunch of guys on one model there, if you can see it. So there's a bunch of, what is that? A Tyranid Warrior, a Harmigan, and another Harmigan on one square. So let's check it out. Let's not make too rash of a decision here. It says whenever one or more models move one space, they can move to any adjacent square. Squares that are diagonal to one another are not considered adjacent for movement purposes. Okay, so there's no jumping diagonally. This is all straightforward. Let's see. Space Marine decides to do a move action and has a move value of 2, so it can move up to 2 squares. It cannot move diagonally. That's what the picture's showing. All right. Sometimes there will be a multiple of options available when resolving a rule, such as multiple potential squares. An enemy group can end their move-in. When this is the case, the decision is left to the players for the one that they... Okay, obviously. Hatchways can open and shut doors along the edges of the squares that they are in, and after each time they move a square. So Tyranid enemies will open any doors along the edges of the square they are in before and after each time they move. So Tyranids automatically move. Okay, open doors. We got that. Enemy groups. All the enemies within a square are called enemy groups. That makes sense. enemy groups will activate and move as a single entity at the same time. Enemy groups cannot move through squares containing other enemy groups. This means enemies will never combine into one another. Okay. And if the edges between two squares contains a wall, excluding one with an open door, then the squares are not considered adjacent, and unless otherwise specified. All right. Visibility. When determining if one square is visible to another, it is visible if it is possible to draw an imaginary line from any part of the viewing square to any part of the target square. That's fair. And then they got a couple examples of who can see what. All right. So playing the game. Let's do the basics here. The player will first pick a mission that they want to play. Select 3 of the Space Marine classes to play. No Space Marine class can be picked more than once. So just like Space Marine 2. Set up each Space Marine model within one of the Space Marine starting squares shown on the mission map. And we'll get to that when we get there. And initialize the number of revive points based on the difficulty being played. Oh, so they actually included difficulty into this. Oh, that's very cool. And then begin first turn. So each one is split into 3 phases: refresh, activation, and end phase. For each Space Marine, all right, let's see. Refresh phase. For each Space Marine that is not down, that Space Marine regains 1 lost armor segment. Very cool. Each Space Marine gains a number of action points equal to his action value. Makes sense. Spawn any new enemy groups as specified in the mission. All right. And then assign each enemy group to an attack wave for this turn. To do so, for each square containing an enemy group, roll a die 3. The results of that enemy group attack wave, we recommend leaving the dice in the square as a reminder, removing them once each of the enemy group activates later in that turn. Okay. Makes sense. So then you're going to spawn enemies. Each time you are instructed to spawn new enemies into a square already containing an enemy group. If possible, enemy groups moves 1 square. When doing so, they must move as close as possible to the nearest Space Marine. These new enemies are then spawned in the square as instructed. All right, so we got that. Let me open this up here. If that enemy group cannot move, determine a new spawn square of use instead. If this is not possible, then those new enemies do not spawn. Maximum enemy count. So the maximum number of enemy models is shown in the thing. So you got 30 Minoris, 8 Majoris, 6 Extremis, and 1 Terminus. Wow. Okay. Lacking enemy models. If the mission instructs you to spawn a particular type of enemy, you have no more models of that type, but do have others of that same threat level. Substitute the ones you do have in place for the ones you do not. All right. So that's pretty easy. I'm assuming they'll get into those specifics as we go. So then we move into the activation phase. In this phase, players will alternate activating the Space Marines and waves of enemies. So that'll be cool. That'll be, Space Marines go, enemies go, Space Marines go, enemies go. So it's a lot like a horde mode kind of thing. And the alternate activation is actually pretty interesting. I like that. One Space Marine that is not down activates. Okay, so enemy groups in attack wave 1 activate in an order of the player's choosing. So whoever is playing your Tyranid side, in this case, will do that. Will activate. 1 Space Marine, and then next is 1 Space Marine that's not down, has not activated. This turn does so if possible. So basically you go back and forth. You activate a Space Marine, you activate an enemy, so on and so forth. And then the end phase. In the end phase, players will check to see if they have won the mission. If all the Space Marines are down, the players have lost the game regardless of any mission rules. Otherwise, if the players have achieved the mission goals, they have won the game. If neither of both apply, reduce the remaining cooldown time on any inactive cooldown abilities. The players can spend any number of revive points they have for each revive point they spend. For each revive point they spend, they can remove one down Space Marine from the game and set him back up in one of the starting squares. When doing so, that Space Marine is no longer down, but remains injured and regains all of his lost armor segments. And then it says, some abilities have cooldown values. When such an ability is used, and it becomes inactive, and it gains a cooldown time equal to its cooldown value. And again, I'm sure they have a example of that right here. Special is the Auspex scan. You use this when a Space Marine selects the attack action. Select a visible square to this one until the end of the turn. Each time a Space Marine attacks that enemy group or on adjacent to that square, they get a +1 to the hit rolls, and it's got a cooldown of 3. All right. I'm assuming that would be just like the tactical in Space Marine 2. All right. So enemy group spawning tables. Here's where the meat and potatoes comes in. Enemy groups. Minoris. 3 Hormigants, 4 Hormigants, 4 Termagants. Wait, 3 Termagants, 4 Termagants, or 2 Hormigants and 2 Termagants. All right. So that's where you get into that. If you don't have enough models for one, you can kind of sub in Hormigants and Termagants being on the same level. That would work great. Majoris. So you got 2 Hormigants and a Tyranid Warrior with melee weapons, 2 Hormigants with a Tyranid Warrior with ranged weapons, 2 Termagants and a Tyranid Warrior with ranged weapons, 2 Termagants and a Tyranid Warrior. Okay, so rinse and repeat here. Or 5s or 6 are just 2 Tyranid Warriors, either with melee or ranged weapons. All right. That works good. Actions. So, I need an example here. So, 6 actions are available for your action phase. Yeah. So you can move. The Space Marine can move a number of squares up to his move value. You can dodge. The Space Marine can move 1 square. And then if he moves out of a square continuing when making dodge move, the enemy group will not attack. So basically you can dodge out of combat. You can attack. The Space Marine selects 1 square visible to him. If that square is the same as the one the Space Marine is in, he will make a melee attack against the enemy group. If that square is adjacent to the Space Marine, he can select either melee or ranged, or if otherwise, he has to make a ranged attack. Fair enough. You can move into defensive stance. It says, until the Space Marine is downed or performs an attack action, he is defending. That will make him able to parry or dodge any attacks from the enemy group. Objective. Missions being played will specify when this can be performed and what effect this will have. This action cannot be performed by a Space Marine if there's an enemy group in the same square as him. And also you can heal. So a Space Marine can only perform this if the players have 1 or more revive points. When doing so, the player loses a revive point. If this action is performed immediately after the Space Marine ended a move or dodge action, it does not cost any action points to perform. All right, so that's cool. So if you move or dodge, it doesn't cost you an action but if you just stand there. But it does cost you a revive point, and you only have so many revive points. And if I remember correctly, you have 4, 3, 2, or 1, depending on your difficulty of play. So, and then you have enemy behaviors. When the enemy groups activate, they will move then and be able to attack, and if able, be able to attack. So you can do a surge check. If it contains an enemy type with a surge value, roll dice 6. If the result is greater than or equal to that surge value, the enemy group surges and gains the relevant effect. Okay. So it means basically they rush forward as a group and then do some kind of action. They can move, which basically means, unless otherwise specified, the enemy group will move the shortest distance up to the move value to get as close as possible to the nearest move target, moving into the move target square if there is not an enemy group in it already. So basically, you're going to be they're charging forward into your Space Marine players, and then if you can attack. So attacking. So you always roll dice, yada yada yada. We're all pretty aware of that. When a Space Marine attacks for the attack type that he's making, well, the player rolls the number of dice shown. Note that some attacks will have one or more execution dice that can be used to trigger executions. You'll remove your misses, so any dice that don't hit, you remove those. And then you can combine attacks. The player then splits the remaining dice into one or more wounding groups of their own choosing. This allows lower value dice to be combined together to take out tougher enemies as described. Okay. And then damaging enemies. For each wounding group, the player selects one enemy model in the square being attacked to try to damage. The wounding target for that enemy model is the enemy model's toughness value reduced by the attack's rand value. If a ranged attack is made and the square being attacked has cover, add +1 to the wound target. 1 to the wound target, yeah. If the combined total of the dice in that wounding group is then greater than or equal to the wound target, the enemy model is damaged and loses one of its remaining wounds. If that is the last of its remaining wounds, it is destroyed and removed from the table. When this happens, if one or more of the dice in the wounding group has an execution dice, the attacking Space Marine performs an execution and regains 1 lost armor segment. Ah, there you go. All right. And then they got examples of that. So your intercessor is shooting. Your Space Marines is shooting at them. You roll 1, 2, 4, and a 4. Because I guess he's got 4 attacks. The 1 and 2 do not meet the 3+. So you lose them. The attack has a rend value of 1, meaning that the wound for the Hormagaunts is 3. The wound target for the Tyranid Warrior with melee weapons is 5. Tough 6 reduced by 1. Okay. So at that point, you can choose to target the Hormagaunts, or you can just attack your Tyranid Warrior. All right. So then that's the Space Marine attacking. Sorry, it's a lot of rules, but we're actually about 2/3 of the way through. It is very interesting, though. It's a nice turn-based thing, and we're going to see how some of these units will work and what their abilities are as we get there. So we're going to select a square to attack. Enemies attacking. Sorry, I lost my place. Enemies attacking. They're going to select a square to attack. If that enemy group is in the same square, it attacks that square. Otherwise, enemy groups is adjacent to the squares. One or more attacks. Otherwise, it will have to make visible. It will have to attack one of the visible squares. So basically, if it moves into a place where it can attack, it's going to attack. Makes sense. They're the bad guys. Enemy models in that group are then separated into their individual types, and in an order of the players choosing, each type is selected one by one to attack. All right, so that's fair. For example, two Hormagaunts, two Termagants, two enemy types are Hormagaunts, two are Termagants. You do one, then the other, just like normal 40k. All right, so you determine your attacks. Same thing. Roll the die. Well, the players determine which type of attacks are being made, so whether melee, ranged, whatever. And then you select your target. Players select one Space Marine that is not downed in the square to be attacked, so on and so forth. If that Space Marine has not activated this turn and is not defending, he can choose to do so. If he does, he loses an action point, or until the Space Marine is down and performs attack defending action. Okay, so you can always choose to defend if you haven't gone yet. That works out okay. All right, then you roll the dice, and they'll tell you how many dice. You can also roll the dice shown for each model of that type. If an attack is a melee attack, then the attack Space Marine is defending. Check for successful parries. If the attack of the ranged attack is defending, check for successful dodges. And then you got successful saves. The save target for a Space Marine in his save value worsened by the attack's Ren value. Okay, so you're still working with the Ren and stuff like that as you were the other way. And we'll definitely have to put some dice down and see how this works out, because I think I like the idea of this. And then damaged Space Marines, each remaining die, the Space Marine suffers 1 damage. When doing so, for each point of damage, if that Space Marine has 1 or more armor segments, he loses 1. Otherwise, if the Space Marine is not injured, he becomes injured. Otherwise, that Space Marine becomes down and all remaining damage is ignored. So basically, if you hit that guy, he takes all the hits. Parrying. Check for successful parries. For each dice that is equal to or higher the Space Marine's parry value, he parries. One of the attacking enemy model loses 1 of its remaining wounds. If that is his last remaining wound, he's destroyed, removed from play. When this happens, the parrying Space Marine performs an execution and regains 1 lost armor segment. Ooh, so parrying is kind of a cool thing. You definitely want to keep that up. To check for a successful dodge, if 1 or more dice are equal to or higher than the Space Marine's parry value, he performs a dodge action and then a gun strike. One of the attacking enemy models loses 1 of its remaining wounds. If that is the last, he's dead. The Space Marine, when this happens, the gun striking Space Marine performs an execution and regains 1 lost armor segment. The Space Marine can then move 1 square, and all such dice are then removed. And then they threw some examples down here. I'm not going to go over the whole thing again. And then the first mission they give you is Inferno. And if you play Space Marine 2, that is the first operation. So initial employment. When spawning enemies in the first turn, spawn 1 Tyranid Minoris threat level enemy group in each of the prime spawn squares. And then generator under attack. At the start of the second turn, randomly determine 1 objective marker to be the mission target for the enemies. That objective marker will remain the mission target for 3 turns, at which point it has to be defended or until it is destroyed by the enemies. whichever occurs first. At that point, randomly determine one of the other two objective markers to become the enemy's mission target and repeat the process. After another 3 turns, or that objective marker is destroyed, the final objective marker becomes the mission target in the same way. The game then ends after 3 turns or once the final objective marker is destroyed. While an objective marker is a mission target, when spawning enemies, spawn one Tyranid Majoris threat level enemy group in that objective marker's prime spawn squares and spawn one Tyranid Minoris threat level enemy group for each of the others. Wow. Okay. So this is just like Inferno. You remember in the middle, if you played it, you remember in the middle section where you have to go save the generators so they're not destroyed. This is essentially this section of the board. So your initial wave in the first turn, each time an enemy group activates, its move target is the closest Space Marine, excluding down ones. And swarm the generators. From the second turn onwards, each time an enemy group activates, if it's on a mission square, it will not move. Otherwise, it will move 2 squares of. It will move within 2 squares of one or more of the Space Marines. The closest Space Marine is its move target. Otherwise, the mission target objective marker is its move target. So basically, that includes the objective marker as one of the targets for the Tyranids. All right. And then the mission rules for that: at the end of the activation phase, if one or more enemy groups are on the mission target square or on one of the adjacent to it, roll a die 6, adding 1 for each square containing an enemy group, subtracting 1 for each square containing 1 or more Space Marines. On a 6 or better, that the objective marker is destroyed. So basically, if nothing's in there, it could still be destroyed on a 6. But you want to get your Space Marines into range to try to bring that number down. As long as you outnumber the enemy, you should be in good shape. And of course, the very end of the game, if no objective markers were destroyed, the Space Marines achieve a major victory. If only one was destroyed, the Space Marines have a minor victory. Otherwise, the Space Marines lose. So if you lose 2 of them, you are cooked. And then they bring up a map of what the battlefield's going to look like. And again, this is on the Zone Mortalis boards. You could probably use some other boards for this. I know, to be honest with you, there's some Space Hulk tiles here. I also have some Silver Tower tiles that we could probably use to work some of that. You could probably also 3D print some of this, or, again, if you had like the boarding action tiles, that would probably work really, really good for this. I think that's specifically the intention. So they give you options here for these are the player cards, and sorry, they're sideways. Can I turn these? Yeah, but not that way. Okay, so we're going to turn these. So just to give you an idea, Tyranid Warrior has that surge value of 4+. They can move 4 squares. They shoot with 2 dice, have a rend value of 1. And same thing with the melee. These are the ranged Tyranid Warriors. 2 dice with a rend of 1. They have a 6 toughness and 3 wounds. Termagants, of course, are a lot less tough. They have no surge value. They also had a rule with the surge, but until the end of each turn, each time an enemy group makes a ranged attack, the square being attacked does not have cover, so they basically ignore cover. That's pretty cool. All right. And of course, Termagants, they have 1 die each, 1 die shooting, 1 die melee, no rend value, and they move 4 as well. Boy, that's a callback to like second edition, right? Everything moves 4 inches. All right. Space Marines. Now, of course, they actually have all 6 of the classes. So if you have the models, you can probably just provide your own. I was actually talking to Logan about this specifically. We are missing, actually, between the 2 of us, we do not have an Eliminator model. And then the other one that we don't have is a Vanguard because neither one of us has Reavers. So we might just have to work on that. But they obviously have their bonuses and negatives. You're heavy. He's got 2 melee dice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shooting dice. Your snipers 3 and 3 with far more executions. And then, of course, they have all their cool abilities. Let me just start with Brother Valius. He has 2 actions with a 2 move. He shoots with 4 dice, 1 being an execution. Melees with 2, 1 being an execution. Hits on 3s or better. 1 rend, 3-up save with a 5-up parry value. And of course, he gets that Auspex scan that we talked about earlier. And his perk is Vital Data, which is once per turn when this model kills an enemy, excluding Minoris enemies, reduce the remaining cooldown time on his inactive cooldown abilities of Space Marines within 2 squares. Kind of cool. I kind of like that. Your Assault, he's got 2 shots, 1 being an execution. Melee's 4 dice, 2 being an execution. He obviously hits better on a 3+ with the melee and 4+ for his shooting. I'm assuming that's to show off that it's a pistol. He also has 1 better move than everybody else, but still 2 actions. So 3-up, 6-up, 3-up save, 6-up parry. He has a jump pack, which means in this model's activation, he can perform a dodge action with a cooldown of 2. And of course, he has a perk as well. Each time this model destroys an enemy group in its square, 1 enemy in each adjacent square loses 1 of its remaining wounds, and that really simulates that ground pound that everybody loves with the Assault Marines. Brother Quartus, the Bulwark, he's got 3 shots, hits on a 4 in range, 3-up save. Melee's got 4 dice, 1 being red, 1 being an execution. Hits on 3s with 2 rends, so he's got more rends than the other 2 so far. And a 5-up parry. He's got the Chapter Banner, which uses after an enemy group has attacked, each Space Marine in the square and ones adjacent to it regain 1 lost armor segment. That's a pretty good choice. I like that. That'll definitely keep your dudes alive. Effective formation. Each time an enemy group attacks the square, 1 dice can be rerolled. So that's pretty cool. And I think I'm just going to skip some of these. Well, let's hit them real quick. Brother Skepius is a sniper. He's got the camo cloak that makes him go invisible. Until this model performs an attack move or objective action, it's invisible. While invisible, the model cannot be a move target and cannot be attacked by enemy groups. That's pretty cool, especially because it's only got a cooldown of 2. That would help him a lot. And then the Medicae Adept, it does not cost this model any action points to perform a heal action. That's very cool. The Heavy, Brother Straven, like I said, he's got that 6 shots for range. That's going to be awesome. He's got the Iron Halo, and that uses an enemy group attacks the square until the end of the turn. Until the end of the turn, each dice for an enemy group attacks that square. 1 dice can be rerolled. for one of its range attacks made by that group. Okay, so you're forcing a reroll. That's kind of cool. And then he's got overwhelming firepower. Each time a Space Marine is square or adjacent to it makes a ranged attack, 1 die result. So he basically forces rerolls, whether it's on the character themselves or on the one of his cohorts, one of his companions. And then Brother Decimus, who is the Vanguard, the Reaver, he's got 2 shots and they hit on 4s for shooting, 4 dice for the melee, 3 save with a 4 parry. That's still good. He's got the grapnel launcher. This model performs an attack action. While doing so, it can improve the attack's rend value by 1. So basically, he can move up to 3 squares with the grapple launcher, and then he gets an attack at the end of it with better rend. So that, of course, simulates that grapple launcher in the game, which is a lot of fun to play with. The honed reaction once per turn after this model destroys an enemy in a melee attack until the end of the next time an enemy group attacks this model, it automatically passes or dodges the first attack. That's kind of cool. And the other thing I should mention is they all have 3 armors, except for the sniper, who has 2, and the Vanguard, who has 2 as well. And then, of course, they have the injured cards, which I'm not sure. Let me pick one. So they hit. Hold on. Let me see here. So let's take Brother Straven, who's the heavy. Hits on 4s for shooting, but has 6 dice. I guess it's just to show that they're injured. 2 actions, 2 moves. 2. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Brother Straven has a 2-up save, where everybody else has a 3-up. Right? 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Yeah. And he's got a 2-up save. So I guess that Gravis armor does work for him. So then they got, basically they just have the injured level, and then they have the Hormigan and the Tyranid Warriors. And I can flip these around if we want to look at them. But I don't really see anything that's different other than it's showing that they're damaged. I do think that probably if you print this double-sided on a printer, these would probably be back and forth, so you could just turn them over, put them in a sleeve or something like that, and you should be in good shape. All right, so that's the first mission. All right, so let's check out the second one. And Inferno's, if you do remember, Inferno is that first mission in Space Marine 2. And I think that's going to be, that's primarily that section where you're trying to get the generators up and running and defending them from that big horde. The second one that they did give us was another mission. This does have Terminus enemies in it. Does it say yet? No. Terminus missions. So they have Zoanthropes, Raveners, and Lictors. Oh, all right. And this is going to be Decapitation, which is probably everybody's favorite mission in Space Marine 2. Let's figure out what section we're going to be in here for this one. So same kind of rules. When spawning enemies, randomly determine 3 of the spawn squares. Then for each of them, roll a dice 6. So you got Minoris, Majoris, and Extremis. Boy, I hope you don't get too many Extremis one after another. But they don't have a Terminus here. They didn't have examples of the Terminus in the other one. Maybe it's coming. An Endless Assault is the enemy target moves. Each time an enemy group activates, its move target is the closest Space Marine. which we already knew. That hasn't changed from mission to mission. Mission rules is dangerous foe. So at the start of the battle, each Space Marine must be set up in a different starting square from all the other ones. A Hive Tyrant enemy is then spawned in the remaining unused starting square. At the start of the battle, select one must be set up. Oh, so we're actually going to be fighting the Hive Tyrant in this. Wow. Okay. That's a great way to put it up. All right. So no messing around here. At the start of the battle, each Space Marine must be set up in different starting squares from all the others. Hive Tyrant enemy is then spawned in the remaining unused starting square. Okay. And then at the start of each turn, roll a dice 6 and consult the table below to determine the priority wave target for the turn. So again, this is the Minoris, Majoris, and Extremis. And each time an enemy group with a threat level matching that of the turn's priority wave is destroyed, select one injured Space Marine. That Space Marine is no longer injured. Oh, okay. So killing things actually has a healing effect. And the ending to this is when the Hive Tyrant's destroyed, you win. Otherwise, there's an out of time. So at the end of the 8th turn, the Space Marines have not achieved a victory. They lose. Okay. Yeah, so you need to destroy the Hive Tyrant. So here's your board. This is the thing that they were talking about. There's 4 starting squares. You get to pick 3 of them with your guy, with the Space Marines, and then the 4th one is allocated to the Hive Tyrant. And then there's your spawn locations. All right. Oh, this is just missions. Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. All right. So then we have the ballistic engine. This is, which one is this? Ballistic engine. Xeno's enemies have invaded the city on Avarax. Nearby Astromatime Depot and Maglev Trex offers an opportunity. All right. So, same thing, increasing threat they have on this one. So from the start of the 2nd turn, for each threat group listed in that turn, in the table randomly determine one spawn square and spawn that enemy group there. So, yeah. So you're going to have a Minoris and Majoris, 2 Minoris and a Majoris, 1 Minoris, 2 Majoris, and 1 and 1 Extremis out of 7 up. They still have the Endless Assault. You have to activate the terminal. So this is the one essentially where you're driving the train into the whatever to charge up the gun. So you basically have, what am I missing here? So 1 of 3 activated terminals. Once 3 active terminal objective markers are removed from the game board, if no Space Marines are downed, it's a major victory. Otherwise, it's a minor victory, and you have 10 turns to do it. Okay. And then those are the victory spots. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you got to take them all out. And then they have data cards for these units. Let's start with the Hive Tyrant. Let me see if I can turn this thing again. And I'm going to make it upside down first. So the Hive Tyrant itself has predatory instincts. So each time a Space Marine rolls a parry dice against attacks made by this model loses 1 less wound. Okay, it's fair. It's a big monster type. And has heightened senses while the enemy is activating. Any invisible Space Marines are not considered to be so. So he can bring them out of the camo cloak. That's kind of cool. So he's got a surge move of a 4-up. This turn, when the enemy group attacks, if it will first do its melee attack, if possible, and then do its ranged attack, targeting a different square. So basically, it gets both turns. It's got a 9 toughness, 5 wounds. All right. Zoanthrope. Everybody likes fighting a pair of Zoanthropes in Space Marine 2. And of course, the Lictor, which is probably one of the scariest ones. Threat level extremists. These are all your extremist cards. Well, we don't have to go over all those right now. They do give you a stage 2 of that one. And again, that one's upside down because it will print with that one. All right. So let's turn this back around. So now we got another operation. So this is all just missions right now. Any mission can be played on lethal difficulty if you wish to. When doing so, the following rules apply. This goes back into it. We already kind of went over that in the first one. It's good to know. Same thing, your different groups. This has your terminus level is the Hive Tyrant, Neurothrope, or Carnifex. And then I'm sure the rules for that have been included down below. And of course, they include some designer notes. If you want, take a good look at those. And then your data cards for the Carnifex and the Neurothrope. And that's about it. I think that was everything. So part 1, part 2, part 1, part 2. Yeah, that's it. So that's it. I'm going to see if I can get the boys to get some models on the table. We have the Space Marines. Like I said, we don't have all of the units specifically. I do have some Assault Marines we can throw up for the Assault class. I have, Blade Guard vets for the Bulwark. I do have, we can find a heavy guy with a heavy bolter. I don't think I have a guy with oh, no, I do. We have heavy intercessors I could use. So we could use heavy intercessors, Blade Guard vets. I have Assault Marines, but I don't have Assault Intercessors. I don't have Eliminators, and I don't have Reavers, but I'm sure we can find something to stick in there for those classes just to play the game. So I think we're going to give this a try. I'm going to see if I can get Logan and Michael, I should say, to give this a shot. We'll print all these out, and if I do, we'll let you know. I know this was supposed to be kind of a paint night, off-topic one, but I thought this was something that really needed to get out there. So I think this is pretty cool. I'm excited. I hope they do more missions because it looks like fun. And really, at the 8 to 10 turn level area, it's actually a pretty decent, quick game that you're really not going to fight a whole lot with. I'm sure like a turn or two, you're going to a game or two till you tamp down all the rules and get everything 100% right. But I think it's all going to be good. So yeah, if you guys try this game mode out, let me know. I'd really love to see how it plays out. I'm going to see if I can build some of these boards with stuff that I have. If not, I'm going to have to produce some stuff. So we'll figure it out. Even if I got to put a board in, just put some, I should have some Necromunda wall pieces that we could probably piece together and make a board out of. I don't know that it actually had a board size. All right, I'll have to check that out. I'm sure if you have the boarding actions, there's probably a size right in there. Well, actually, silly me. They do have the board put out in tiles in the description. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 12 tiles by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 by 12 tiles. So I'm sure you can make something work, especially some of those pictures where they got a Tyranid warrior and 2 Tyranid termagants. Yeah. Yeah, let me know if you guys leave a comment, if you guys try this and you like it. If you want me to see if I can get the boys to play on stream, see how it works out, leave me a comment. Otherwise, make sure to like and subscribe this video. If you're going to listen to it on Spotify, leave a review and tell me what you think of how this came across in a audio format. Other than that, I think that's it for tonight. I'd like to thank everybody who hung out and listened, and anybody that watches this in the future. And yeah, this is Todd from Table Ready Painting, and we're here to help you and your models become table ready. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.